Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Some of you may have heard that next week there is a rather important event happening for the channel, and that is our first ever meetup, our first ever Napoleonic weekender at Boards and Swords in Derby, which we have called Under Eagles to Glory, and that's happening next Friday and Saturday at Boards and Swords in Derby. Now, the idea of this weekend is that it's not a tournament. It's just a series of 4 games, and there's no prize for being overall winner. There are some prizes, but not for winning the most number of games. There are prizes for things like best painted or best modelled vignettes, things like that, but not for winning most of the games. So what it really effectively is a structured weekend of pickup games. Now, what is a pickup game, some of you may be asking? A pickup game is where you go down to your club or a store or whatever, and you've got the standard army size with you. So for argument's sake, it is 40k. You might have a 2,000 point army with you. I don't know if that's the standard size anymore. I know it is for the old world, or you might have a 1,000 point Lord of the Rings army or bolt action army or 750, whatever it is. You've got the average, the standard army size for it. You go down to the club or to the friendly local gaming store, and you're fairly confident, even if you've not arranged something, someone else is going to rock up with a similar sized army, and you're going to be able to have a game. So that's what a pickup game is. A pickup game is where you haven't necessarily planned it in advance, but you go down on spec. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about in this, and this is going to be a bit more of a discussion video. There's not going to be a video next week. Well, I am hoping to be able to try and live stream some of the event. It's always a bit of a difficult thing to do. Hopefully, we'll be able to. So for the next couple of weeks, I want to have this video for people to talk about and think about, and that is, why don't we have historical pickup games? How can we have them in future, or how can we promote them? And is there just a reason why it doesn't work? Now, this is not necessarily just Napoleonics. I'm not really sure I've ever seen someone just rock up to a club with a specific army and know that they're going to be able to get a game. Pretty much outside of 40k. So I think the first reason is to do with the breadth of historical gaming. So one of the big problems that we've got is there are a million different periods with a million different rule sets. So probably, some of them, maybe a million different rule sets per period. Certainly for the Napoleonics there is. So one of the things is there has to be a prior contract in place. So there's no point in me going down to a store or a club and saying, right, next week, do you fancy a game of Napoleonics? The other person says, yep, that's fine. So we rock up the next week, and I've got my copy of Black Powder with me, and my opponent's got their copy of General de Brigade 2 with them. That's probably not going to be great. That's something that needs to be spoken about beforehand. What set of rules are we going to play? And this is one of the things I really like about Black Powder, is I think Black Powder is the closest to a overall set of rules. Now, even then, Black Powder has its problems, because some people will have no supplements, some people will have the Albion Triumphant 1, some both, and others Clash of Eagles. So even with the suggested rules, you're still not necessarily going to be on the same page. And that's why I put that into the event pack, that we would be using the Clash of Eagles. It was far enough ahead that I think people have either got time to get hold of a copy, or they can find some on the interwebs, I am sure. So yeah, I think that's one of the first reasons why pickup gaming for historicals is a little bit less common than 40k. As an example, I mean, even within Games Workshop itself, if you rock up to a club on night 1 with, say, Lord of the Rings, you're probably unlikely to be able to throw down a game straight away. And I think that speaks more to the ubiquity and the popularity of 40k than it does necessarily the lack of interest in other games. But these things, they begin to snowball. So for argument's sake, if I move to a new town, I would probably take my 40k army with me if I went to a new club, with the chance of getting a game, whereas if I took my Napoleonic French with me, I probably wouldn't. So because I'm more likely to take my 40k, I'm more likely to get a game, which then means I'm more likely to take 40k again, and so on. So these things can snowball. So I think that's the big thing, is it's about having a set of rules in your club or your gaming group that you are most familiar and most comfortable with. This is something I find very frustrating about my current gaming club, is that every new month a new set of rules comes out. People play it for 3-4 weeks, and then something else comes out and you never see that set of rules again. When I first started there, L'Art de la Guerre was super popular. Pretty much everyone was playing L'Art de la Guerre. So I went out, bought myself an army of Scythians, and by the time the army had arrived, no one was playing Art de la Guerre anymore. So it was kind of a bit of a waste of time, to be honest. Now, luckily, I rebased all my Wars of the Roses 50mm for Art de la Guerre, so they're perfect still for Hail Caesar. And in fact, I may be having some Wars of the Roses games with them in the not-too-distant future. I'm just looking at some command bases I've been working on now. But yes, if you are part of a group, part of a club, then it is my strong suggestion that you have a set of rules that are the club set of rules. They may not necessarily be the ones that you enjoy the most, but at least they're ones that if you go down, you can have the expectation of getting a game with. Just as there are a myriad of sets of rules, there are also a myriad of scales. Now, this is also the problem of you've decided on your gaming system. Let's have a game of Black Powder Napoleonics next week. You rock up next week with your beautifully painted and turned out 1815, well, this is another thing we'll come to, 1815 Waterloo army in 12mm, because it's all epic stuff. Your opponent rocks up with their 28mm. This is also another problem. There isn't a overarching scale. Now, a lot of people on this channel really like 50mm, 18mm, which is AB miniatures. They love their 20mm. They love their 28mm. They like classic 25mm. We've got 10mm, we've got 6mm, we've got 15mm. We've got small 50mm like Essex. We've got large 50mm, again, AB or maybe Fantassin. So we've got a million different manufacturers out there, and they all make different proprietary scales. Again, it comes down to you have to discuss this in advance. If you rocked up with a 15mm French army, then everyone else may pull out a 28mm army. They would love to have a game, but you've got the wrong scale. So that's another thing as well that stands in the way of being able to go for a pickup game. It's very unlikely, although possible, that you would say to someone, let's have a game of 40k, or let's have a game of 30k next week, and someone pulls out their 32mm Space Marine army, and someone else pulls out their 6mm Epic army, the Legion Imperialis army. It could happen, but it's very unlikely. The suggestion is if you're going to play 40k, you know that it's going to be the 28/32mm game that everyone wants to play. Now, a quick aside, I should have talked about this when going through the rules, actually. I think one of the things that 40k has shown us, 30k is the Horus Heresy, if anyone's not sure, so that tends to be what I focus on, which is why I sometimes say 30k, so apologies for that. I mean 40k, Warhammer 40,000, the main Games Workshop system. If that has shown us one thing, it's that the quality of the rules is perhaps the least important aspect of the popularity of a game. The 40k rules have been terrible for some time. 10th edition is absolute out-and-out complete trash. It was interesting going to Adepticon this year because there was an absolutely huge 40k tournament on there. I mean, several 40k tournaments, to be honest. And walking around the hall, I was lucky enough not to be involved in any of them. Walking around the hall, I could see people playing tons of different games, and they were all having fun. I don't think I saw a single person playing 40k and actually having fun. No one really seemed to be shouting war or for the Emperor or any of that kind of stuff. Everyone was taking it very seriously, which is fine. I'm all for taking games seriously, but you've got to enjoy them as well. So, for instance, the D-Day game we went to last week, I was making the comedy German voices, so apologies to our German listeners. It wasn't offensive. It wasn't meant to be derogatory to them. It was just a way of us enjoying the game after, to be honest, an initial bombardment had completely taken us out of the game. So the idea there is that the enjoyability and the quality of the rules seem to be the least important thing when it comes to their popularity. What seems to be far more important is your chances of getting a game if you bring an army for that system. And I have a horrible feeling that I'm just going through all the negative reasons why we can't get a pickup game. I have a horrible reason I'm going to end up actually praising Warlord Games here. So if you're listening, to Warlord Games, I don't only criticise you, but we'll come to that in a bit. So if it's not about the quality of the rules, it's about the ubiquity of the rules. It's about the fact that you know that you can go somewhere and play a game of 40k. So that's what really we could do with in the Napoleonic sphere, or in historical wargaming in general. Now, I think the Warlord Games have this approach. Obviously, a lot of their employees are ex-Games Workshop. I'm thinking of people like Paul Sawyer and the founder, John Stollard, in particular, those two guys. But, so they're having the approach of trying to capture the historical gaming market. And I think they've done a pretty decent job. If I had to say, right, I'm going down to a club, I've got to take an army, what do I think is going to give me the largest chance of being able to play a game today, then I'd probably think something like Bolt Action would be. If I weren't allowed to take any Games Workshop games, I think something like Bolt Action would probably be your best bet. Now, some people really don't like the Games Workshopification, there's a word for you, of the historical sphere, but I hope I've put across here an argument for it, in that if you are wanting to play a pickup game, if you haven't organised something in advance, then by having a baseline game system, then it makes it more accessible. As I said about 40k, having success breeds success. Being able to go to a place, see people playing the game, you come down next week with your own army, means you get a game, means the person who's come down that week for the first time sees a game of 40k, so they bring their army, and so on and so forth. So let's say that with our imaginary club attendee, you have organised that you're going to play a Napoleonic game next week. You've organised it's going to be in 28mm. You've organised it's going to be black powder. Now we come to the next problem, and that is a problem I would suggest with members of the community, if I may be so bold. And this is something that this channel has always strived to not overcome, but to minimise. And it's certainly something that the event Under Eagles to Glory is definitely designed to minimise. And that is the ahistorical nature that you can have from Napoleonics. It very, very purposefully, I've said in the pack, look, you may have an 1815 Prussian army. You might well be fighting a 1798 Battle of Valmy Prussian army. I mean, you won't be, but the possibility was there. Similarly, you may have a French army from 1809, and you might be fighting a French army from 1815, or a British army from 1815, etc. So the point here is that it's not to make it historically. It's not to be a slave to the history. Again, what we don't want when we're coming down for a pickup game is you say, do you fancy a game of Black Powder next week? And then, someone says that to you. Do you want to fancy a 28mm game of Black Powder next week? And you say, yes, let's refight the Battle of Aspern-Essling. Or, yes, let's do the 3rd Division's attack on the French at Salamanca, or something like that. While you could do these things, you're again limiting the interest. If you're interested in the Battle of Salamanca, and the person who's coming down for a game is interested in the 1809 campaign, or the fall of France in 1814, or even just the 100 Days, then you're limiting the audience. And this is basically what it comes down to: is it's a set of funnels almost. So you pour all the historical interest into the top bucket, shall we say. I think buckets are probably a better way of looking at it. So you start off with a massive bucket. That's historical interest. Then you say to someone, do you want to play Napoleonic? So some of that water gets poured out of the bucket. Everyone who doesn't want to play Napoleonic, out the bucket. Then you say, do you want to play Black Powder? Everyone who likes Napoleonics but doesn't like Black Powder, out of the bucket. Do you want to play 28mm? Everyone who likes Napoleonics but not 28mm, out of the bucket. Then, if you say to someone, let's play this specific year, then even more water goes out of the bucket. Now, there are some that are unavoidable. If you want to play Napoleonics, then you've got to say to someone, let's have a game of Napoleonics. There's no point in saying, let's have a game of Black Powder. You bring your Napoleonic British, he brings his Franco-Prussian War Prussians. Although that might be quite interesting to have Napoleonic British versus like Mahdists or Zulus or something. That might be quite interesting. But there's not much point in doing that. Actually, yeah, the Zulu sounds really cool. Anyway, there's not much point in doing that. So by necessity, you need to pare it down to the thing that you're interested in. But there's no point in paring it down too much, because then you start alienating too large an audience. Now, you could say, well, you don't even need to have a specific scale. The frontage of a battalion in Epic Napoleonics is the same as the frontage of a battalion when you're doing it in 28mm. So you could very easily play 28mm versus 12mm. I have seen games that's a little bit closer, of 15mm versus 10mm of Art de la Guerre, and that would seem to work reasonably okay, but obviously 12mm and 28mm, there's quite a big difference there. But for me, you could do it as a mechanical exercise, that would be fine, but you could do the same thing with pieces of paper as well. The idea is that, I want the battles to look impressive, hence I went for the 28mm. Now, that said, in the future, I am absolutely not adverse to running an event that is for epic scale miniatures. Not adverse to that at all. Although without resorting to printed models, the availability of the epic scale models is quite limited, just to the 300 days main nations. One of the things that makes 40k such a great game for pickup games is, of course, the points system. Now, a lot of historical games have toyed with point systems. It's seen as being something that's rather... a lot of people are rather sniffy towards it, which I don't really understand, because it tends to be the older gamers that are quite sniffy to points. If you came through Warhammer, then it's sort of your bread and butter. But there's a lot of the older gamers, oh no, you don't need points, just use a historical scenario. But they used to use points when they played WRG back in the day, so I'm not really sure where this comes from. Of course, that's really helpful because it means that you can create armies that are balanced to an extent, and they can fight against each other in a relatively balanced way. Ah, yes, beardy old Wargaming historian man says, but war isn't fair. Battles were never fought fairly. I'll tell you what, mate, that's absolutely fine. You play let's think of an example. Say, from Modern Warfare. You play the guy on the motorbike with the RPG, and I'll play the US Marine Battalion that would be deployed against that one man with his RPG. Let's find out how exciting that wargame would be. Not very. So you have to take, again, that historical context away from it, because you need to make it balanced, because that makes it fun for both players. Now, can you have scenarios that are unbalanced, that are still fun? Absolutely, of course you can. But for a pickup game, you just want one that's, I will throw our two armies on the table, and we know that they're relatively balanced, and we can have fun. So I guess this is more of an appeal at this point. I'm asking that you, the audience, that if you are trying to set up a game, a pickup game with someone, you don't make it too specific. You don't get into that, oh, well, actually, in 1815... which is where we are setting this game, they didn't wear bicorns, so you can't use your bicorn figures. Literally nobody wins with that attitude, and that's why I hate it so much. The only person who does win there is someone who gets a momentarily feel superior to another person, and then they never get a game again. So, what's the point in that? As I've said to people before, people say, can I use these models or whatever? My bicorn French have trodden the burning sands of Egypt and the glutinous mire of Waterloo and pretty much every battle in between, and they've rolled nothing but ones in every single one of those battles, so it makes no difference whatsoever. I have to say, the first time I went to my current club, the Sheffield and Chesterfield Wargamers, chatting to the guys there, it was Alex Elstone who sort of approached me and started talking. And we organised a Napoleonic game, and we ended up playing, the following week, we ended up playing France on France. And I have to say, had his attitude been the attitude of earlier, I probably never would have gone to that club again. So big shout out to Alex here. He was very welcoming, and we ended up saying, well, it's 1804 training camp at Bologna. And this is the battle that started. He actually was my opponent in the first ever video on this channel. So a super shout out to OG Alex there, which was so much the first video. I didn't even know how to stitch files together then. So to be fair, I haven't really improved that much in my technical knowledge since. But yeah, so someone having that forgiving spirit, shall we say, can be vital, can be really important between someone coming and someone coming back. And this is basically what we need to do as a community. We need to encourage more people to get into the Napoleonic Wargaming in the first place and then stay in it. And this is what I'm hoping for events, things like Under Eagles to Glory will do. It's about having a presence on the circuit, shall we say. It's about people looking at a website for, in this case, Boards and Swords, seeing the tickets, be like, oh, what's this? This is interesting. And having those conversations there. And that's what this has always been about, this channel. It's always been about trying to extend the conversation, extend the appeal of Wargaming, and make it as Games Workshop-ified as possible without losing what makes it different and without taking on board some of the lesser welcome attributes of Games Workshop games. If you want my opinion on prices, you can check out last Wednesday's live stream, because I reviewed the Warlord Games Epic Command sets in that one. And hooey, yeah. So that's basically it. It's just been a bit of a ramble from me today, so apologies for that. But one of the reasons is I'm really, really, really excited about the event this weekend. If you are in the barest vicinity of Derby, please pop along and have a look. It's got really good transport links. It's on the ring road, so it's not too difficult to get to. But I want to leave you with this. I want to leave you with, how do you think we can encourage a more pick-up style game for Napoleonics? How can we make it so that if you turn up to a club with your Napoleonic army, there's a decent chance of you getting a game? Do we need to restrict the number of rules that we use? Do we need to have club sets of rules? So we say, right, the club for World War II, they use Flames of War and Bolt Action and nothing else. Or is this stifling creativity? Is this against what Wargaming represents? I think there's a reason why Wargaming came out of Britain. Well, I mean, you could argue Kriegspiel, but as a hobby, it came out of Britain. Because I think it's such a British hobby of a man alone in his shed with his toy soldier. I can't think of anything more British than that. Although that's not to say, obviously, that other nations don't enjoy it. I just think it's something that's quintessentially British. It's like saying that everyone can enjoy tea, but no one, but the English, it's a thing here. Is it something that YouTube channels and, I mean, certainly not me, but influencers, is it something that they can push forward? Are events the way to go, or weekenders, or would it be better just to have a more of a presence in the local scene? What do you guys think? What's the way that we can not necessarily proselytize historical and specifically Napoleonic wargaming, but how is it we can get people interested in what I think is the most interesting of wargaming periods? Well, that's it for today. I wanted to keep it quite short. I've still got some buildings to make for next weekend, and England are playing at 8 o'clock tonight. So that's the most important thing. But no, seriously, thank you very much for listening. And as we go into next week is the event. The support for the event has been absolutely overwhelming, and I couldn't have done it without everyone here. Now, even the guys who aren't coming have sent me messages wishing me good luck for the event and things like that. So thank you so much for that. It really does mean a lot. And those of you who can make it, I hope to see you next weekend. Those of you who are attending, get painting, because I guarantee you haven't finished your armies yet. And for everyone else, hopefully we'll get some live streams next week. But if not, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. There should be a live stream this Wednesday, though. So I hope to see you then. Goodbye.